So folks, this evening we're going to be talking about treasure laws. And most people have no idea of the various laws that have to do with finding treasure, recovering treasure, and they vary from state to state, and they certainly vary from whether it's on land, whether it's in water, whether it's off the seashore, whatever the case may be. And tonight, that's what we're going to talk about, because recently a pair of treasure hunters actually ended up getting a prison sentence. Now, it's easily avoidable going to prison over treasure. Very, very easily avoidable going to prison over treasure. If you end up going to prison over treasure or treasure hunting, it's actually kind of your own fault. And it's your own fault for just not understanding completely the treasure laws. There are treasure laws, and it's not as cut and dry as some people think as finders keepers. You've heard it, when you're a kid, finders keepers, losers weepers, right? People think that that is the de facto law on the books. Now, the reason I did this is because this story came out about these treasure hunters that found a significant treasure. I'm gonna show it to you this evening so you can see what it is. But more importantly, they basically made a few missteps and ended up paying and going to pay dearly with it. And I think it's important so everybody understands, right? What are the differences in treasure hunting? What do you need to know? What can get you in trouble, and what can keep you from getting in trouble? The laws aren't really that hard. It's just you have to make sure you know them and you apply them. I certainly wouldn't want to have you end up going to jail over something as simple as metal detecting. Did you know you can go to jail for metal detecting? You have to kind of know where those areas are. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how treasure hunting can land you in jail and what you should know and practice. Because, very simply put, treasure hunting can, in fact, be very risky. So while everybody's spooling up and getting ready here with the broadcast, I've been doing these online treasure hunts. Not everybody can get out in the field and go treasure hunt, but it's definitely a fantastic passion, hobby, avocation, and profession if you can do it. But what's most important is treasure hunting always begins with what you're doing right now, being on the internet and researching in a computer. And so to try to find a way for people to share in that, I've been doing some online treasure hunts where you just go to the website to find this stuff and you mail me some stuff. So we have a winner, chicken dinner. We have a winner for the last round. Hey, coming up, I'm gonna give away some ancient treasures. I got to re-put that stone in there. Ancient bracelets we found. I might do some old ancient rings, right? All different kinds of ones. But in this particular one, you could either pick from a hoard of ancient coins to the Masonic Templar, right? Medallion. And I was giving away some books with it, which I'll sign. This book, which comes with it, which is called Billions Lost, is my original book where I wrote about Oak Island and stuff. And then what's going to it is this book. I would recommend this one to any of you reading. This is a phenomenal book, right? And it's this particular fellow you're seeing on the cover basically tracked down an incredible should we say, multi-billion dollar stash naturally in the earth, because remember, some treasures are Mother Earth's treasures. There's the warehouse vault in this case was diamonds, and this talks about how he tracked them down. It's, if you're any kind of gemstone hunter of any kind, you need to read this book. Anyway, this is part of what I'm giving away with this one treasure hunt. And I know I said I would give the winner their state treasure book from one of my books, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to give you all states. So this is one of my first edition books, right? This is about 600 pages. This thing is a brick. So all 50 states are in there, and I'm going to go ahead and give you another book because I'm just feeling well. This is called Ill-Gotten Gains. Outlaws, gangsters, bandits, war criminals, how and where to find the hidden and lost and stolen millions from that. So I know everybody kind of wants to know, since I said chicken, winner, chicken dinner, right? Okay, so who won? So let's bust this. Let me switch my screen here, right? And I like that everybody's getting online and doing this. I'm glad you like it, and I'm glad I can do it. So let's go here, and I'm going to show you who the winner is. Let me make sure I get the right screen. Hang tight. Ready? It is going to be... I'm going to guess here. Ready? This one. Here we go. There you go. The winner chicken dinner that actually won is, we've all seen him online participating in the groups and every bit. There he goes. Look at that. Barrett, here's his tag. He's on the broadcast. Bear Spirit Walking. He is the winner. And so, yeah, we're gonna cram full your library here, brother. But he is the winner of the treasure hunt, right? So there he is. He's got a huge library. And if I remember correctly, he actually decided that he didn't want the Templar medallion, right? The Masonic medallion. So he didn't want that. So he decided he wanted to go with the ancient coin hoard, right? And so we're going to gather up a bunch of them, and he's going to basically get to enjoy it. It got a lot of information there. That one book is all 50 states, right? It's part of a bigger series, but it's all 50 states in there. So why just give you that one state when I can give you a first generation book? And you did such a fantastic detailed job. I love it when everybody follows the rules, right? Because that's what we're talking about tonight, is following the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, hey, you can't win in the treasure hunt. So I'm going to do more of these, and I'm going to do probably some of these ancient rings coming up with books. Everybody went nuts over the gemstone, but then again, that was what, Jim Value said that was a $10,000 stone. I'm going to do some more of those. So there you go, Bear Spirit Walking. He says, thanks, everyone. And no, hey, thank you. Thank you for using your computer and digging into it. So let's get into this particular broadcast, and let me show you what we're going to be talking about so you understand where this came from and why I decided to do this particular program. And it's off this story right here. And I posted it on my Facebook. And of course, I mean, you're looking at it, two men who found Viking treasure hoard are now going to jail because of it. Okay? And they found a Viking treasure hoard. So you think to yourself, oh my God, how can finding a treasure make you go to jail? Now, this particular one, these guys are over in the UK. Every single state has different laws. I'm gonna go back to my one screenshot here so you understand where I'm coming from on this, because years ago, I did a book. Let me make sure I've got it right. If you're looking at your screen there, if you look at the ones on the left, that's my original first edition book. It's probably, that particular one is now, oh, I don't know, 16 years old. nobody had published a textbook on all the laws, state by state, land, water, ocean, region by region, with the different idiosyncrasies between antiquity laws and Native American laws, etc., and then going into the international laws go with it. So I actually penned that textbook a long time ago to help people do it. That textbook has now been updated, and that's the book you see on the right, which you can actually just find on Amazon. It's this one here. And cacheology basically is the study of ancient caches. These are called caches. It's not cache, and it's not a catch. It's cache, just like CASH. And that is the updated version of Cacheology Encyclopedia of Treasure and Artifact Recovery Law. And I did it simply because the reality is you can literally get your ass in a sling. And the government can come in and seize your house, your property, your findings, your whatever the case may be. It is not something that you want to get entangled with at all. You want to completely stay away from it. And it's very easy to stay away from it. And that's what we're going to be covering in this broadcast. So I'm going to go back to my screen, and we're going to kind of go through this story together. And I'm going to show you how petty this can be, but it's the technicalities that will get you caught. Like, did you know in most states, a lot of these people right now, you go out artifact hunting. This all applies whether it's metal detecting or artifact hunting or anything like that. In many states right now, if you dig up an arrowhead, you can go to jail. That now has all kinds of laws behind it. I grew up in Texas, arrowheads laid everywhere. Now, it's actually considered a crime against the Sacred Native Americans Grounds Act, etc. However, if a field was freshly tilled, right, or harvested, they did a harvest or something like that, and they tilled it up, and it happened to be laying there on the ground, you can pick it up because it's exposed without being subject to the various laws. And so there's some things you want to pay attention to when you go to some of these places, and think about it. Arrowheads, it would be fantastic to find a Native American pot. Find it the wrong way, and you're going to spend 20 years in prison. That's how serious this treasure hunting can be. Go to the wrong place with your metal detector. You could be facing up to $20,000 in fines, depending upon where it was. They can seize your metal detector on the spot. They can seize your car or truck. You brought it in, and you're potentially still going to jail. Think about it this way. You can lose your emails if you're a politician, you're fine, right? You can make offhanded comments to somebody in a bar with a international figure you're not supposed to be saying, and you're totally fine. You pick up an arrowhead wrong, you meddled it wrong, they're going to throw you under the jail. It's upside down, but it's absolutely true. Let's get to the story. I'm going to show you what everybody is up in arms about in this particular case. Here it is. Now, these two fellows basically found a coin hoard and a few odd trinkets of jewelry, mainly this little trinket on the right that you see, which is like a crystal ball, I guess you could say. It's a round crystal, this little serpent bracelet, and they were right here, okay, in England, where they're from. Now, one of the things I've always said, and I tremendously, wholeheartedly believe is, and if you were to read my treasure law books, you would find this out, the best laws, period, the fairest, the best of all laws, when it comes to treasure hunting, if you were to walk out and you were the one that found a treasure, the one place you do want to be to get treated fairly is in the United Kingdom, believe it or not, right? Here in America, it can be upside down. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But in the United Kingdom, where these guys found this treasure, that is absolutely the very place, right, that you want to find treasures. And because if you're going to find treasures, they have the best laws that make sure you, the finder, get treated fairly. So let's read this article together. I'm going to scroll through it. You'll be able to follow along. It's on my Facebook wall. You can see it. I posted it, I guess, about maybe 7 or 8 days ago. But the reason I'm doing this is that damn article, right, had like 30,000 plus readers. This thing just, and that's from my site. That's just from Facebook. It just freaking took off. And that's when I knew, when everybody was talking about this article and these guys, I knew it was a hot topic that was, and I've done, should we say, sessions on this before, right? But I knew it was a hot topic, and it was time to do a refresher on it so you understand it, because nobody wants to give up their home. Nobody wants to give up their car just because they went out metal detecting. So you got to know what it was. And so since I knew this was hot, I wanted to make sure that you understood what it all meant when it comes to what are you doing and what happens out there. So let's go through this one, right? And of course, they've always got to tie it into pirates and Indiana Jones and Tomb Raiders. And it's absolutely horrible that archaeologists and anthropologists, which we'll talk to in a moment, always try to say anybody that's out hunting treasure is a treasure robber. That is not the case. Well, this story was reported by the BBC, and it basically said these two guys, George Powell and Leighton Davies, were in Hertfordshire, England, and now they're facing prison sentences for 8 to 10 years, okay? Now, these two men had been exploring in a field near Eye. They were back in 2015, and they came across a Viking treasure hoard. Another name for the treasure hoard is a treasure cache. That's the easiest way to remember it. It just basically means they found a storehouse. Think about a battle, right? When armies and fighters were moving across countries, I mean, they didn't have debit cards, credit cards, or PayPal. They were bringing it with them, and they were collecting booty along the way, literally and figuratively, right? And so if you're out treasure hunting, metal detecting, and you know that there's a battle scene nearby, then what you want to do is, before you go to the battlefield, that's all trinkets and trash. What you want to do is you want to find out where the two sides encamped, right? And the reason you want to find where the two sides encamped and not the scene of the battle. Remember, scene of the battle, you might find spearheads, you might find crossbow bolts, you might find trinkets and trash and other stuff. But if you can find where they camped, then what you do is you work from the camp radiating out into a half moon. Why? Because all of these soldiers and warriors each carried their own money with them. As they got spoils coming across the land, it was divided up amongst all the warriors or soldiers. And before any battle, all these guys going out in a pretense to poo in the woods, I guess, would actually dig a little hole, and they would stick their own cash in it, their coins, whatever they were paid, or jewelry or trinkets or rings, and they'd bury them in these holes. And then effectively, the various leaders, which were also carrying cash, if the battle got particularly heated and pitched and they were having to basically haul ass from the battle, they would bury this stuff and try to come back for it later, because this stuff is heavy, right? And so you find where they encamped, you find the battleground, which is usually marked, you find where they camped, and then you do a half moon radial out, and that's where you're looking for all these small caches and a big cache. Well, these guys stumbled upon what was a significant cache. It actually, I think, was over 300 coins in total that these guys found. Well, here's what it is. It's not really about what they found. It's about what they did about it. Okay, so these are the type of coins they found that you see here on my screen. Okay, and these, of course, have the word British Museum as you see it. Okay, listed there. And this is where and why I say England's the best. So here's the rules. Let's start with the rules for England. And then let me explain what these guys did, how it got them in trouble, why they are going to prison, etc. Because they could have avoided this. And it's truly a stupid, greedy mistake. And I've dealt with this before. You know, I've had debates online. There's two things that happen with professional treasure hunters. Everybody says, well, show me what you found and show me what you really did. You know, prove you're good at it. Well, the stupidest thing you can do if you find a hoard or you didn't find something legally is to always show the hoards. Hey, look what I found here, and here's where, and here's whatever. We have a rule of thumb. You don't talk about something until 8 to 10 years after the fact, and everything's been buttoned up right and everything's been done legally. That's how you legally do it. And then when you talk about things, you talk about things that are legally yours, not, hey, I went out, look what I found. Here's my chest of gold. So here's how it works in England. And I'm going to compare it to the United States first. If you're in the United States and you find a treasure, technically, it is finders keepers. But there's a hook. And the hook is, was it found on public land or was it found on private land? And now, depending upon what it is, there are other hooks, right, that they can get you with certain laws. Give you a good example. Odyssey Marine, which is the most successful underwater treasure hunting operation operating out of the United States. Odyssey Marine. Odyssey Marine made a discovery not too long ago that was in the international waters off of Spain. Now, domestic waters, nation waters, they have a territory. That territory may go out a mile, that territory may go out 12 miles, right? But all countries have rights within their boundaries that if something's hidden, right, they, if it's found, you have to kind of register with them. Now, if you get outside that boundary, then it's in international waters and it's basically a free-for-all or whatever. And sometimes as a common courtesy, you let them know. Well, Odyssey Marine spent millions and millions, about $21 million to be exactly. And they actually tracked down some old Spanish ships that had sunk with all this treasure and coinage on it. And of course, what this was coins that they had literally robbed the gold from the Americas, pressed them into coins, were sending them back to the crown. But nonetheless, it was officially Spanish, and Odyssey Marine found this in the water. Now, they did place a call to Spain and said, hey, we think we have found this, and we want to let you know, and you can participate with us. Let's go after this thing and do it. Well, Spain, and I'm using a lot of shorthand here, basically never responded. So Odyssey Marine on their own spent $21 million, went out and found this hoard. It was $1 billion, $1 billion worth of treasure, with a B, not an M. And when they found it, they loaded it up into crates and they flew it via DC-10 cargo planes. They flew it back to the United States. Well, as soon as Spain understood it was extracted, right, then when Spain extracted it, or these guys extracted it and got to the United States, Spain at the time petitioned President Obama and said, hey, that is wartime treasure. Now, the only ships that have in perpetuity rights to their cargo was something that was technically a warship in defense of a nation. Well, we do know that the Spanish were only conquering, it wasn't a war. And we do know they were taking the gold from the Americas and shipping it back. But Spain threw a little card in the mix and said, nope, that's a wartime treasure and that goes back to us. Well, what Spain did is when they looked over the manifest, and the way you basically tell the difference between a warship at the time and a cargo ship at the time is whether it has armaments, whether it has cannons, right? Well, the ship had no cannons. And they're going, hey, it wasn't a warship, which was absolutely correct. It was not a warship at all. But the ship had one small signal cannon on it. A signal cannon. You know what a signal cannon is when they're coming into port. It's kind of like the warning shot. It comes in, hey, we're about to come in, and all the ships beware, we're coming into port. It's a signal cannon. And Spain petitioned the United States, and President Obama at the time decided to agree with him. He overrode all the laws and basically called that a war implement. And Spain seized that $1 billion treasure on that technicality. So what they did was they let these guys get it out, spend $21 million of their own money, time and expertise. Spain would have never known about it. They pull it out of the ocean and then use the legal maneuver to take it back. That's what you have to watch for in the treasure business. Now, in England, where these guys are, there is no reason to make that stupid mistake. And let me tell you why. Unlike in America, where two things are really bad. You find something and you haven't done the right paperwork or the right stuff to find it the right way. Anthropology and archaeology always tries to seize it. Now, they don't fund anthropology and archaeology anymore like big hunts, and so it's kind of the only way they can study it. And so there's this big battle between people that actually go out and find recovery and the educational academia community. Rightly so. However, the opposite doesn't work either. The rules in some of the states are if you relocate a treasure in the United States, technically what you have to do is you have to go to the state, you have to petition for the rights to extract it. They require you tell them where it is. They require you tell them what it is. They require you tell them how valuable it is and how you found it. And then they will decide maybe if they will let you extract it. There is no guarantee. That's what happens when it's in public lands, right? And of course, with public lands, like Bureau of Land Management, mineral lands, whatever the case may be. And for goodness sakes, don't go into certain federal parks or state parks. You literally are not worth the trouble. But in England, they do it right. See, England cares about the history in the right way. So instead of being a battle over it, they embrace it. In England, what they say is, we want everybody to metal detect. We want everybody to go out and find history. They encourage it. In the United States, they discourage it. But England, what they do is they go, you go out and find it, but just follow the rules, and here are the rules. The very moment you find the treasure and you know there's something there, don't dig all the crap up. Just go down to the coroner. They got to have a person to register it, right? So obviously, if you found something buried in the ground that's old, it belongs to somebody dead. So obviously, you go to the coroner. It is the official, the government official. And you go down to the coroner and you say, hey, look, we found this treasure, and here's where it is. What the coroner does is the coroner reports back to the Crown, And basically, the government will come in. The government will hire archaeologists, anthropologists, and everybody to study it. The government will come in. The government will make sure the perfect archaeological dig is done. They will make sure history is recorded and nothing is destroyed. They will restore the pieces. They'll clean them up. They'll curate them. They'll make sure they look absolutely stunning. And then the government in Britain will actually put out bids for acquisition. And they'll take 3 bids or values or appraisals, however you want to say it, about how much is this worth. And depending upon what it's worth, right, they figure the law of averages to the 3. They take the averages, not the high, not the low, but the average. And then they turn around to the treasure hunters and they write them a check for that value. Now, if the treasure hunter found it on somebody else's land, meaning it wasn't the person who owned it found it, meaning owned the land, and it was on somebody else's land, then what the government immediately does, it's a no bitching situation. Everybody wins, right? They turn around and they give half of the value to the landowner because they legally own the land, and they give half of the value to the treasure hunters who found it. No fighting, no bitching, no screaming, and nobody gets screwed. Think about that. I told you in the United States, it's really iffy if you don't know how to do it right. And in most cases, they never approve it and always seize it. Internationally, and this is the best law in the world, they say we want everybody to win. So think about it. Because they wanted to study it, they paid for the right people to study it. So archaeologists are happy. They paid for the anthropologists to study it, so they're happy. They paid for the dig. It was done right for educational purposes and everything else. Everybody won. They documented for history. They did beautiful textbooks and coffee table books on it for history, right? They cleaned it up, made sure none of it was destroyed, found the fair market value, and let everybody share in it. Everybody won. Why? Because the treasure was saved, the people who found it made money, the landowners made money, and history was saved and restored. Nobody begrudged anybody everything. And so what happened that the United Kingdom understands is they can't fund all of this exploration. They can't fund archaeologists. They can't fund anthropologists. And right, Julie, you're right. It should be like this everywhere. The actual government embraces metal detectors and says, please go recover our history. We want to support you. This is great. They support it. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be the battle like we have here in the United States. But then again, there's these guys, right? So let's go back to this article. These guys. Now you're looking at the coins here. You can see how these are cleaned up, right? Right here. You can see how they're cleaned up. They also found, this is the rock crystal pendant that was encased in gold. They say it probably came from the 5th or 6th century. They found a bracelet, which they think might, it has a certain serpent's head you can send up here or see at the top. It might be a dragon or a serpent. They think that might be from the 9th century, right? These coins, the emperor coins right here, are so rare for these coins that these, they only found 2 of the emperor coins, right? But those emperor coins are so rare, right? They have images of King Alfred of Wessex and Ceolwulf the second. I guess that's Beowulf's cousin, Ceolwulf of Mercia, right? That these are so rare. It was about the time England was becoming a nation, but each of those coins, right? Each of those coins estimated to be worth $100,000 a piece. $100,000 a piece. What did these guys do? Either they had their heads up their hooey hole, right, and didn't understand the laws. But these guys got greedy because what they did is before they really reported it, they decided to go see what it was worth. The rule of thumb, if 2 people find a treasure, how you keep it a secret, right? Every treasure hunter jokes about it. You kill the other person. That's the only way it stays a secret, right? And of course, I'm only kidding. Don't write about it tomorrow on the blogs. It's just a joke, not a suggestion, just a joke. These guys, when you find treasure, unless you tightly control it and tightly control how it's done, the word's always going to get out. Well, the word got out that these guys found a treasure. And these two guys, instead of following the procedure, which was just to go talk to the coroner, right, and tell them what it was, they basically, okay, decided, just like it says, it's hard for one person to keep a secret, especially if it involves treasure, is it got out. They didn't report it, and the rumors got out, and the police showed up and said, hey, Mr. Powell, Mr. Davies, we hear you had made a find. And this was out about a month after the find, where the officer showed up and asked about liaison, right? That's the officer that says, I'll help you get the money out of this. And these freaking idiots, here is the police, the constable, there to help them maximize it. They're gonna get the money anyway, right? And they're gonna get far more money because it's gonna be appraised right and cleaned up. But these two imbeciles got greedy over that, right? Got greedy over that. And literally decided to try to keep a secret and to try to sell it themselves. The moment they would sell one coin to any dealer, if they'd have done that, and it's these super rare coins that they've only been whispered about, right, throughout history, never find, here's one perfect condition, the damn thing's worth 100 grand. They never thought about the fact that once they transfer that to dealer, that dealer's going to promote the hell out of it, right? It's one of a kind. It's worth even more than they paid for it. Not using their noggins. And because they got greedy and didn't understand how the system works and what you should do, these guys are unnecessarily but legally correct, and it should be done. They're going to jail. Not only will they not see a dime of it, they're going to jail, and they will have a prison record, right? Simply for not understanding treasure laws. And that's what the issue is with any of this, is you've got to understand what you're dealing with. So the question is, do you know your state's treasure laws? Do you understand your state's treasure laws? Do you understand if you stumble across something and don't do it right, that you actually can legally get yourself in trouble? And so that's why what I did is, that's why I went and wrote this book. Let me put it back up on the screen here so you can see it. Is I realized that people were significantly getting themselves in trouble unnecessarily. And it's only because nobody took the time to basically teach people about these treasure laws. Now, I want to point something out to you. You'll find this ironic. When I talk about the vast amount of shipwrecked treasure that's out there, I talked about case studies. And one of the things I talked about is that I used Nova Scotia, right? Nova Scotia as a sample, because it has all these shipwrecks that are super ancient, but they let nobody die. They do that under the guise of protecting treasures and protecting things, but the way they're protecting it is literally letting it rot in the ocean. If they had $2 million per ship to investigate the 25,000 ships out there, not only would they have to have this massive budget, but they could not even scan them all and just document them all in 200 years, because the law's upside down. So everybody freaked and went the other way with it, right? And did all these stupid laws versus embracing it and trying to embrace people. So that's why I wrote these books, is because you've got to understand that certain states have certain rules. Now, the other one I used two other ones. I used an example of a 9-year-old boy that was out with his father. His father was sluicing. Sluicing is where you kind of like have your little ramp out and you're running gold pan through it, and you're running them over your sluice, trying to find little gold nuggets in the rivers, which you can do all over the United States. And the child found a arrowhead in the river, just laying there, picked it up in the river. And it happened about that time that the park ranger came through, totally fine for sluicing, and he saw the little kid with the arrowhead. And that park ranger, because they were on the opposite extreme, literally arrested the father, taking the son with them for picking up that ancient artifact there. This was a kid just picking it up. Now, the ranger could have had some common sense that he could have just educated the parents, right? He could have educated the child, but yet he traumatized the child over it. That's how obscene some of this is. You want to talk about further obscene? Let's talk about Oregon. In Oregon, let's say you own 50 acres of land, okay? And if you are, if you're a farm boy or farm girl and you grew up on a farm, you have a burn pit, right? You have a burn pit. You don't have regular trash come pick up your trash, right? You got an old pit out back that you've dug up, and you haul the brush and you haul all the crap out there and you burn it, which is also legal, by the way, so unless there's a burn ban. But in Oregon, if you went on your own land and you went out in the field and you started to dig, and let's say you didn't know who owned the property before you, but you stumbled upon their burn pit, and there was something in there that was 10 years old or older. 10 years old or older. And you dig it up, and let's say the previous owner decided to push an old truck down in the hole, old farm truck they don't use, they just got rid of the damn thing and buried it in the hole. Well, you're digging your trash pit and you uncover this thing, and all of a sudden word gets out, oh, Bobby found an old truck in the hole. Well, in Oregon, if you find anything over 10 years old and you're digging around on your very own property, you must, by law, hire an archaeologist or anthropologist to come study the site to make sure it's not anything of great antiquity, right? And it's a trash pile, but just to verify that's what it is. And if you do not, you dig that hole and you don't do that, and it gets out, you weren't looking for treasure, mind you. You just happen to be digging a hole. All of a sudden, Oregon can seize your land. Happened in Nova Scotia too. I talked about that. A guy built a brand new house, right? And we're going to say it was worth a couple $100,000. And when he was putting in sewers line, going to put in a pool, he came across an old artifact. Now, he did what was right. It was an old artifact. He turned it into the state. The state, to repay him back for turning that in, basically claimed the site was an ancient site, took over his property, put a value on his brand new unlived-in house of zero. So he could never sell it, right? Devalued it and everything to lock it up because they said it was an ancient site. And that's how Canada dealt with it. So you have to understand these things when it comes to treasure laws, because you can get your yoo-hoo in a bind. So these guys These guys didn't need to basically get in trouble. They didn't have to get in trouble. They basically just tried to side skirt the law. The most favorable law in the land, right? And when the police came, he said they found, these guys lied and said, well, we only found a few damaged coins of no real value, so there was no point in reporting them. Well, the law says you have to report it. Then when they went to the other guy who got scared, basically said, oh, look, I got 5 of the coins in my possession. It turned out, right, that by that time they had already, there was over 300 coins. They'd already recovered 30 of it, right? Here's the ass kicker. This is just what makes no sense. Can you read the line I highlighted there? The value of the Viking treasure hoard Powell and Davies discovered is estimated to be in the neighborhood of £3 million. Let's say there was no landowner involved. These guys would have been paid $3 million. But because they didn't understand the law, so they were total gobsnockers, right? They basically got all excited, oh, we're going to be rich and we're going to do this, and they're not going to know. When they could have been heroes. Because what England also does, and the United Kingdom also does, is when you find these things, like the kid who found a rare pendant a while back, they make you national heroes. They're on every television show, you're in every newspaper. So, moral of the story. If you are going to treasure hunt or metal detect or artifact hunt, there are rules. And these rules should be followed. No, you shouldn't be going out and robbing ancient burial grounds. That's a no-no. That shouldn't be done. And there's a difference in time. When I grew up, there were mounds everywhere, and everybody could find stuff on the mound. Some people cut into them, right? Now, it's against the law, as it should be. But there's rules. And so you need to understand the rules of, can you keep it? Can you not? Can you metal detect technically in that city park? Well, some places you can, some places you can't. You know what you don't want to do? Maybe you metal detect with a decent $300 or $400 White's metal detector. Maybe you metal detect with a mine lab with a commander coil, and it's $5,000 for that one. They have a right to seize it. If you're in the wrong place doing it the wrong way, they can take that from you and can take your car, because technically your car was used to transport it there. So the moral of the story is, make sure you understand the treasure laws in your state or region. Make sure you understand the recovery laws. There are certain rules. It doesn't mean you can't find it. It doesn't mean you can't claim it. But it can certainly mean they'll throw your ass under the jail if you do it wrong, rightly so. And you never, ever, don't try to skirt the law. Don't try to hide it. I have, had to bust out people that found coins, didn't follow the law. The coins were priceless to history, but because they were so damn money hungry, they melted the freaking coins just for gold value. The difference between that gold melted and that gold as an artifact is 60 plus times over. But because they tried to skirt it, right? They cut corners and do stuff. History should never be destroyed. Period. History should never be destroyed. Sometimes there's winners and sometimes there's losers. Not too long ago, a few years ago, California couple walking along their land. Rain had come on the little trail that walked along their land, and the couple noticed a little bitty can in the dirt, and they kicked it. And when they kicked that can in the dirt, $10 million of gold coins came running out. They turned it in. They did what was right. It had to go out of their possession for a while, but the state decided this was their land. That was a legit find, and that $10 million became theirs. Pain in the ass. But if they wouldn't have followed the system, it could have been yanked from them, and their land could have been yanked from them, and it could have been serving a prison sentence. So follow the rules. There are rules, always, always, always rules when it comes to these things. So that's the truth, right? Charles says, I'll call you if I find something. You can get the book. The book's really easy. Spirit Walking said he used a Mind Lab. Mind Lab's the best in the world. You know, metal detectors, most people don't know this. What's the difference in the price in your metal detectors? Whether it sees this far in the ground or whether it sees this far in the ground. Very few things are buried there, but that's where most people's detectors only see those few inches and not deep down into it. Do UK laws count if you're a foreigner with a metal detector? Not really. You know, well, no, actually, technically, yeah. If you're a foreigner, it's not a requirement for citizenship. So, Julia, you're exactly right there. You could go find it, right? And if you're the finder, doesn't mean you have to be a resident to get paid. So maybe the rule of thumb is we all go metal detecting in the UK. Good idea. Anyway, folks, I strongly recommend educate yourself on it. You've got to be able to know what your various rights are. You've got to be able to know you don't want to find a treasure and have it ruin your life and have everything in your life get seized. But you also don't want to have to give it away if you don't have to give it away. I am going to do more treasure hunts online. I know everybody can't get out and find these things. So I'm going to empower it behind the computer. I'm going to let everybody participate in that. So I'll probably be doing that. I'm thinking maybe this weekend that I'll do another one. I think I'm going to do another gemstone one. I think people get more excited about the gemstones. Anyway, take this to heart. There's no need to break any laws. There is no need to destroy history. A little more complicated in the United States because they're not really friendly to it. But if you follow the rules, you can do it. And you know what? You can find really good stuff. You can find really good info. And it's one of the ways your name might go down in history as you find these things. Don't get greedy. I know, look, it's in our blood. Drive down the highway. I say this all the time. Driving down the highway, you might see somebody with a flat, and you decide you don't have time to pull over. Right? Life's busy. You got to go on. Driving down the highway, right? See a little briefcase laying on the side or a purse laying on the side. You're going to freaking slam on your brakes and stop because the first thought you have is, what if there's money in there? Right? What if that suitcase is filled with money? We're just wired this way. Just understand the rules. Have a good time. It's really good to do it out with your kids. Get out with your kids and have fun. Spirit Walking, right? You are the man. You won. Congratulations. We'll get them right out to you. You'll send us some pictures and stuff, right? Don't get discouraged, folks, whether you have to be number 10 or whether you have to be number 50. Keep at it. Keep at it. 2 times in a row, 2 great winners. Had great fun with it. Anyway, folks, make it a great week. Take care. Love you all. Follow the rules. Follow the rules. Take care. Bye-bye.